Welcome to another episode of the Body and Mind Sports Show. I am the Mind, your host, and with me is the Body. Body, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm flexing the body!
Oh yeah, flex that body!
I'm flexing that belly!
Live up to your nickname. So this week, once again, tons of news to go through. So we'll be talking about the NFL. We'll start with that as usual. So this week was the trade deadline. So there's a bunch of trades that we're going to be looking at.
This resembled the NHL trade deadlines more than the NHL trade deadlines resemble themselves now.
It did. We actually had some blockbuster trades happening. Some big players making big moves that could potentially impact the playoff races. So we'll be reviewing those. Then we'll also do our weekly NFL review and preview. So we're reviewing Week 8 and looking forward to Week 9. Then we'll have our fight of the night. And tonight's fight is what really happened in the Cincinnati-Cleveland trade breakdown this week. So we'll be analyzing our thoughts there. After that, we have a report on the World Series. Game is currently tied 3-3 as we speak.
Well, the series, as we head into Game 7.
The Game 7 game is on as we speak, as we record this. Then we'll look at some more playoffs. The Major League Soccer, they're in their playoffs now. So they're off to round 2. So we'll be looking over the playoffs so far. And also CFL fans, we'll be doing a review of Week 19 and look forward to Week 20, which is the last week of the CFL season. And we'll end it, as always, with our epic and suck of the week. Moment we thought was epic, moment we thought sucked. So, before we even start this week's show, last week we introduced a new segment, Week Late and $1 Short.
And
I have my own.
Oh, do you? Good, because I had nothing. I thought I was on time with the $1, and I was kind of disappointed.
Absolutely not.
Fantastic.
We have a mistake here. So that's our segment where when we make a mistake, we own up to it a week later.
A week late and $1 short.
So last week, while we were doing our review of the third of the season of the NFL there, and we put teams into the 3 buckets we thought of, the pretenders, contenders, and the tire fires. When we spoke about Carolina, I had mentioned we spoke about Luke Kuechly, and I had mentioned that he played for Houston.
Oh, I didn't even realize that. Double error.
So we reviewed it, and he hasn't been traded yet, so he's still with Carolina.
And I believe he came back from his concussion this past week. If he hasn't, he's coming back at least this week. So, yeah.
So Luke Kuechly, no, he does not play for Houston, still with Carolina.
Though he keeps getting concussions, he might think he's in Houston.
Well, I know last week we talked a lot about concussions, so I'm thinking I might have even gotten one during the conversation. So that's our week late and $1 short. So with that out of the way, let's start with our Week 7 NFL trade, or just NFL trades.
Yeah.
NFL trade deadline.
It was madness.
It was madness. This was some legitimate big names and potential playoff impact. We're going to look at 5 trades. First one is Marcel Darius, went from Buffalo to Jacksonville. And you like this trade.
Oh, I love this trade for the Jags. Love the Jags' pass defense this year. Run defense has been a little suspect. Darius, fantastic defensive tackle. Been a bit disappointing in Buffalo since signing his big contract. And there's been a little dissension with him there and disciplinary issues. I think it'll work out in Jacksonville. He's played for Jags coach Doug Marrone when Marrone was the head coach in Buffalo. So I don't think Jacksonville would have made this deal if Marrone wasn't confident this would work out. I think the change in scenery will do well for Darius. And not just can he get to the quarterback, but he finally gives him a legitimate run-stuffing lineman in Jacksonville. If it doesn't work out, they lost, a 6th-round pick or something like that, I believe it was?
Yeah, it's either going to be a 5th or a 6th pick. We're not sure yet.
So it's well worth the risk for Jacksonville. I know he has the big contract, but it's not like Jacksonville has big contracts tied up through their roster. So if you could take a chance on it not working out, I love this deal for Jacksonville.
So is this a case of, is Buffalo needing to get rid of salary? Is that why they did this?
I think it was just ascension, and for Buffalo, it was addition by subtraction. For Jacksonville, it was addition by addition. I think this kind of works out for both teams.
Okay. That's interesting. So just like Sammy Watkins, when Buffalo got rid of him, people thought, oh, okay, Buffalo's tanking. That's why they're doing it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks like same as this.
Yeah, because that deal worked out for both teams. I mean, Buffalo was missing receivers, but they just looked like they need to get rid of Watkins, and Watkins has turned out well with the Rams. I think this is a very similar kind of deal.
I like it. All right. There's hopefully that works out, because it's nice when you actually see a deal that works out for both.
Yes.
The next trade we have here that to me makes no sense whatsoever. You have some info on it that is supposed to shed light, and that's Kelvin Benjamin going from Carolina to Buffalo.
Well, I looked this up when we talked about it, and let's throw air quotes around information.
Air quotes.
Air quotes. So Carolina's interim GM, was talking about how they needed more speed because Benjamin and Devin Funchess are too similar. And they're both 6'4" and 6'5", around that area, and they're not very fast. Mm-hmm. And they felt he needed more speed, so they can't gang up on the running game.
Right.
Because teams are piling 8 in the box because they're not worried about the deep passing game and stopping the run.
That's true, because having a 6'5" receiver who could potentially catch an 8-foot-high football is totally limiting to the running game.
Oh, exactly. I mean, speed isn't the only way to get big plays. You can isolate that big guy in the corner. But, this guy being a general manager and supposedly knowing the game, though, his whole life, I don't know how this passed him. And the other part is, so you want to replace it with speed. Well, what speed? Like, do you have some speedster on the roster I don't know about?
Maybe they're going to trade back for Ted Ginn at the end of the season.
The Saints won't give him up to a division rival. Is there someone in Carolina I don't know about? Is there some unknown kid on the practice roster? Or do they have a grand plan? Well, no, I'm lying. I can't wait to see Carolina. I can't stand watching their games.
No, they're horrible. They're horrible.
So there's what, some fictional speed character? Like, the speed just doesn't show up out of nowhere. I don't get this.
And given that Carolina has one of the worst offenses in the league, so let's just get rid of one of your best and young receiver. Yeah, it's not like he's like a 38-year-old guy on one leg at the end of his career. He's like, what, 26, 25? Like, he's a young guy. Like,
it doesn't matter who the GM is with that team. You have this Benjamin move. When they had the previous GM, there's the Josh Norman move. Like this,
yeah.
I don't know how this team just gets out their own way to win games like they do.
If Carolina ownership has any good sense, they'll remove the interim tag by putting this guy on the unemployment line.
Oh, I agree. They need to find someone who knows what they're doing.
The next trade we have is another one that actually you liked, and I actually thought finally was a good move, was Seattle getting themselves some offensive line help. Dwayne Brown going from Houston to Seattle.
Yeah, you got to protect Wilson. They need offensive line help. They still have weaknesses, but man, left tackle alone can help solidify your line a lot. Protecting the blind side, maybe help run block too. I think Pete Carroll was recently asked about a couple of his running backs, Eddie Lacy and Thomas Rawls, and he basically commented they have nowhere to go. It doesn't matter how good your running backs are. If you have nowhere to go, it doesn't matter. And you better keep Wilson upright and protected. Love this deal for Seattle. Definitely love it.
Well, that's been just a constant theme that we've had whenever we talk about Seattle. Every week of the show, we always talk about their O-line. It's like in everything about Seattle. It's even in last week when we're placing these teams. I think we had Seattle as a pretender because of their O-line.
Offensive line.
Yeah, because they have some good players on offense. They have still what we think should be a good defense, but that O-line just betrays the whole thing.
Been a weakness for 3 years now.
So it's nice to see that they're finally addressing it. So Seattle gave up Jeremy Lane and 2 picks, a 5th round this year and a 2nd and next year.
Yeah, the picks. Lane's a good nickel back, but you got to give up something to get a Dwayne Brown. So,
all right.
And I like Shaq Griffin, the young corners who replaced him outside. I don't know what they have for nickel, but if they even have someone decent, just competent, it's worth it for getting this left tackle Brown.
Do you think Houston got decent value for him?
Yeah, I kind of think so this time of year. I mean, it's a trade deadline. I don't know if anyone's going to give more than that. And even good nickelbacks are hard to come by.
Yeah. So the next deal was also a bit of a wild one here. Jay Ajayi goes from Miami to Philadelphia for a 4th-round pick.
Yeah, you're hearing contradicting things with the Dolphins. I mean, they're 4-3 and in the wild card race. So, you know, I've heard speculation. How's the locker room going to feel about maybe their second best offensive player being gone? Then you hear other things. I don't know how accurate that he's not the greatest teammate in that. So it's interesting. I'm not sure what to make of that. I think this is a good deal for the Eagles. He gives them a shiftier running back. So they have now Ajayi, Blount, and Smallwood. That's a good rotation of backs. And I'm wondering if Philly's idea with this is not just having more running backs, but you want to solidify that running game. We were talking a couple weeks ago or last week about Jason Peters out for the year at left tackle.
Yeah.
And over time, we'll have to see how that works out. So that's a blow for the offensive line, but one of the ways you might be able to help protect Wentz is with the running game. So if you have the punch of Blount and Ajayi, and if you could run the ball and get more play action, that might actually help alleviate the loss at left tackle a little bit and help with the protection of Wentz.
Then it's always a good thing to have depth, no matter what, especially for a playoff-bound team like the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, having just a couple of good, reliable running backs, even with Smallwood. But I mean, having Blount and Ajayi, it's a nice mix of power and shifty speed. The one thing I heard, so you think of for Philadelphia, this should be a good trade, especially for a 4th-round pick. They didn't really give up much for him.
No.
The one other thing I heard coming out of Miami that is a criticism of Ajayi is that the Miami coaches felt that he was looking for the big play too much. That he wouldn't always just hit the hole that was there. He would look to see if he could, instead of just hit the hole and make a nice 6-7 yard run, he would instead ignore it and see if there's a way that he could stretch this to a 30-yard run. So that was a criticism of him, is he was looking for the big play on far too many plays instead of taking what's there.
Could be a legitimate beef. The interesting thing with Philadelphia, though, is if they play it right, if he does that, you just bench him and give him more Blount and Smallwood.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Whereas in what were you going to do in Miami if you kept doing it? Sit him for, I don't even know who's replacing him right now. So.
Who knows? Maybe the backup quarterback. We know he can't throw.
Yeah. I don't even know if Jay Cutler cares yet.
Well, speaking of quarterbacks, this leads us to our last trade of the week. Some fella from New England. He got traded.
Oh.
Hey, he's pretty good.
Garoppolo. For a 2nd-round pick?
To San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Is this putting one of your bets in danger? Your 0 for 16 bet.
Will he be the San Francisco tree? Ooh, I hope not. It's going to be interesting. I don't think he'll play this week. And it's going to be interesting, too, because we've seen quarterbacks when they get out of New England. So we've heard 2 different things. There was someone in New England, but I don't know who it was. It's anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
Say this kid can actually potentially be a really good quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the track record of quarterbacks that have come out of New England, which has been mixed.
Yep.
Brissett's been decent on a horrible team. There's criticism, but It is what it is. Matt Castle's had a bit of success and a lot of failure.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Hoyer, just madly inconsistent.
My God.
By the way, he's back with the Patriots, but they needed a backup.
All these quarterbacks are coming home to roost. You got Hoyer coming back. Osweiler came back. Everybody's come back.
Come back home.
Come back home. Get some home cooking again.
Yeah. So, it's going to be interesting. I'm curious to see how this turns out. One other thing, too, because one of the things people speculate is Kirk Cousins will go to San Francisco next year if he doesn't stay in Washington.
Mm.
And he may very well stay in Washington. But kind of wondering, I haven't heard anyone discuss the possibility of Kirk Cousins going to Denver. Because if there's a team that needs a quarterback,
absolutely,
it's the Denver Broncos.
Oh, yeah. That is true, because in Denver right now, I mean, we have Simeon that in a year and a half of work hasn't blown the doors off for anybody. It's like we haven't seen any kind of really remarkable improvement.
Yeah, the only doors coming off there are Denver fans kicking doors off hinges in anger.
Yeah, I don't blame them. And I mean, Osweiler, we've already seen what he can't do.
Well, you said it best before. He couldn't even make it in Cleveland.
Exactly. If you can't make it in Cleveland, then where can you make it?
If you can't make it there, you can't make it anywhere. It's the anti-Broadway.
Hello, arena football, because I don't think the CFL is a place for Osweiler either.
No.
He is just way too slow and immobile for that league.
The bigger worry for me, slow and immobile in the mind.
Speaking of slow and immobile, there's also Paxton Lynch.
In the mind.
So we haven't even seen him play except maybe preseason. So I mean, this is the choices you have in Denver. So yeah, so Kirk Cousins would seem like a pretty intelligent choice for at least Denver to go after him.
Yes.
So that is our review of NFL trade deadline. This was actually an exciting trade deadline. This was a fun one. So hopefully the NHL and NBA can follow suit and do the same thing.
NBA had a decent one last year, and they don't usually do much. And I don't know what's with the NHL since the salary cap era.
Yeah, so hopefully, step up your game.
And salary cap is an excuse because this is done with salary cap.
Oh, exactly. Although, what is the NFL salary cap? I think it was like $140 million at some point. I don't know if it's still there.
It's modest.
It's modest. Yes. Yes, maybe by baseball standards.
Yes.
So that is our review of the trade deadline deals. Now we're going to look at a few games we've personally handpicked from Week 8 of this past NFL week. The first one we want to talk about is another exciting Thursday night game. Love my Thursday night football.
There's been 2 awesome games and a bunch of garbage.
Now, Dave, easy.
I was easy because I wanted to use much stronger words.
Easy. Baltimore. They came out and they showed their mettle by pounding Miami like an anvil for 40-0.
Yeah, this game was every bit as horrible as I thought, but for different reasons I expected. I expected a 13-12 classic of nobody moving the ball. No, we just got a one-sided beatdown. Just a beatdown. Actually, the Ravens beat the Dolphins the same way Kiki Alonso beat Joe Flacco.
Oh, sweet baby Jesus. That was a nasty hit.
That was.
We were like re-looking at that hit again, and I mean, some people, were trying to make the case, well, it was close, this and that, but I don't know. I looked at it, and
I think he could have held up. I think he making contact, but making that much contact, no.
That's the thing. Like contact, I think that was inevitable. He was gonna hit him, but like we're saying, do a Eddie Guerrero frog splash on him then. But instead, he just went helmet to helmet and just blasted him. So I think the helmet to helmet part was totally avoidable.
I agree.
So he didn't get suspended. There's no suspension coming?
I think there's supposed to be one. They decided no suspension.
Wow, that is shocking given how much protection they're giving QBs. That's surprising. The other thing that surprised me about the game actually is when it was over, I did not realize that Baltimore was 500. This team has completely caught me off guard because I've just been thinking of them as just this horrible team all year that can't get anything done, and yet somehow they snuck up and got themselves a 500 record, 4-4.
I was going to use the analogy from Forrest Gump, the Baltimore Ravens are like a box of chocolates, but I hate that analogy. There's a map at the bottom of the box if you look at it.
That's true.
Oh, that just frustrates. Look at the bottom of the box. The Ravens, you truly don't know.
I'm sorry I ruined your Black Panther party.
Captain Dan!
Captain Dang!
Captain Dan!
So how about the next game we got here? We had Atlanta and New Jersey. Jets!
Jets had a good effort. Atlanta played well enough to win in a brutally horrible weather game. The Jets.
That was football weather. I
loved all of them.
I love games in that weather.
Same here, and the whole Eastern Seaboard seemed to have Washington, Dallas, just the whole East Coast. It was great, actually. It'd be horrible. Actually, I wouldn't even mind it live after. Because you got to go prepared. That's the whole key.
Oh, I've been in games like that. That's when you take everything off. The shirt, the pants, everything.
The pants.
Everything. Go commando.
Oh, a little bit too much hot chocolate and assortments at the game. Going commando. Hanging out at the game. Going commando. A little too much info there. So
go Jets, go.
The Jets, good effort, but I think just not having enough talent now is catching up with them. They've lost, I believe, 3 in a row.
Yeah.
They're still playing tough, but now the reality of what they are, a losing team, is creeping them. But I give them credit. They come out and play hard every week, and they at least seem organized, which is where they can say for the Browns.
And in this game, despite it all, the Jets had a chance to win this game.
Yeah, I had the Jets to win, too.
So they were in it right till the end. I mean, they're competitive. So, yeah, that's the thing that we're wondering. Is the fairy tale over? You're thinking that, their lack of talent.
There might be another win or two in there, but I think the lack of talent's catching up.
It's finally catching up to them. And we don't think that this is at all a turnaround thing for Atlanta.
No.
Atlanta's bad. They're still bad. The end should score.
But they suffer from being in a pretty garbage division, so they might hang in there. I think the big thing is if the Saints keep winning, they'll leave them in the dust.
Speaking of dust, there's lots of it in Oakland these days.
Oh, yeah.
They were in Buffalo, which a game that we had highlighted. It was almost a must-win for them if they really wanted to keep their playoff hopes alive.
Yeah, I was concerned whether Kansas City was an aberration or a return to form. It looked like an aberration. Had that game, but Bills looking good, 5-2. Only AFC team undefeated at home.
That's incredible. So you were mentioning that, they've had plenty of home success, obviously undefeated at home.
And decent on the road. They've had to win there, I'm sure.
But now it's on the road where they need to prove themselves.
Yes, you need to win some games on the road.
The other thing that also kind of brought to attention with this Oakland loss is that the group of death that we were calling...
He's become like the group of disappointment.
Yeah, the AFC West. Yeah, it's a good name for it, the group of disappointment. Because so far, I mean...
Denver, Oakland, the Clippers... the only ones playing up the form are the Chefs.
Yeah, the Chefs are doing what we thought they would do, and the other three are just bumbling, stumbling, and... Well, they're not rumbling.
No.
They're just bumbling and stumbling. Surprising. We thought that the Clippers, a.k.a. the LA Chargers, still feels weird to say that, that their defense would actually carry them and lift them up to be able to challenge teams like Kansas City and Denver.
Well, they lost Red, who's a really good corner for the year for the second straight year, and that was a huge loss. But I mean, other stuff too. I just wonder if that team, like Phillip Rivers isn't throwing the ball down the field. From what I've heard, it's like I gotta wonder about game planning when you have Phillip Rivers dinking and dunking, not using his tight ends much.
Plus the fact I just think the situation they're in, like this, I don't know, what seems to be just an out of the blue move to LA all of a sudden.
Go back to San Diego.
And playing in a small stadium with people that basically hate you.
Yeah, don't want you there. They come to cheer the visiting teams.
Yeah. I mean, that situation there, that's just going to be brutal for any team playing there. I don't care how disciplined you are when your own supposed air quote home team fans are booing you out of the park every single day.
I would guess they're probably happier when they're playing on the road.
Yeah, exactly. At least in the road, you're supposed to get booed. Well, one game that did not have any booing at all was Houston and Seattle.
Fantastic game.
This was definitely the game of the week. Even Richard Sherman was impressed.
Richard Sherman called Deshaun Watson the best quarterback that they've ever gone against, and that includes legends they've played.
That's massive.
Said he'll be a top 5 quarterback next year. It's the top performance they've ever played against in Seattle, that defense.
It is incredible that Deshaun Watson now has been the starting QB 3-4 weeks.
Something like that, maybe 5 tops.
And it's incredible that no matter who he's playing, even against a defense like Seattle, that is still a really, really good defense. 30
points guaranteed with them.
And he's still just pumping them. And 38 points against that defense.
When I look at Houston every week, they score 30-plus points and they give up points because they look like a guaranteed over bet every week.
Yep.
shouldn't say guarantee because there are no guarantees, but tempted just to blindly take Houston for the over every week, no matter what the total is.
There you go. There's your betting tip of the week. Houston, take the over. Next game we listed out here is Pittsburgh and Detroit.
I have one more beef with that game I forgot about, speaking of defense.
Yes.
Because I know they're lacking pass rush without Watt and Merciless.
Yeah.
But Clowney's got to step up. And I've heard people say he doesn't have help. Well, Mac doesn't have much help besides Irvin out in Oakland. And he still does what he has to do sometimes. I'm seeing nothing from Clowney. And the game calling. I know there's no pass rush. So if you're not getting there with the blitz, it's hard to go to coverage. But it's late in the game and you're protecting a lead. And I don't see two safeties back there. And everyone knows Wilson likes to go deep. And your pass rush isn't getting there. So why not have a couple guys back just to at least make him think and dunk and stuff? They're still bombing the ball down the field on Houston. There's no deep help. Just Bush League.
And that's the thing. You can't really blame the injuries for 41 points.
No.
You can blame the injuries for, okay, we gave up an extra touchdown or something a game. But, yeah, not an extra, 3 touchdowns a game.
No.
So, I mean,
not to a team without an offensive line.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is a Houston team, and they can't even blame their offense either anymore.
No.
Because that would be the crutch before. It's like, oh, well, we're constantly on the field because their offense is so horrifying. Well, your offense just put up 38 points. Like, how much more points do you want? Like, even a bad defense should still win when their offense puts up 38 points.
Even the Raiders were winning last year.
Yep. So Houston, now that they got the offense figured out, the defense decides to go on vacation. Pittsburgh, Detroit. We were impressed by this game.
Pittsburgh keeps winning, and Detroit was choking in the red zone, coming off a bye week. That's not a good sign.
So red zone means stop?
Yeah, red zone means self-destruct. So red zone means failure if you're getting in there and can't score.
And I think, maybe the only thing that might... Well, actually, they might can't save them because Minnesota is running away with that division right now.
Yeah.
So Detroit, right now they're 3-4.
They're still somewhat in the wild card mix.
Yeah, salvageable.
Yeah, but I'm not too confident in them. I wouldn't say they're out yet. Let's see what they show in the next couple of weeks.
Steelers, though, they look like they're right back to being the Steelers of old.
They do. Their defense looks as good as it has in a few years.
So a team that everybody had pretty much written off 3 weeks ago.
Martavius Bryant wound up on the scout team.
Yeah.
I want the ball more. Did you see he went on Twitter to talk about how he's better than Schuster? A, I don't know if he is better than Schuster. 2,
the most talented scout team player out there.
Not just the most talented scout team, but this is one thing I know from I used to be on social media. I'm not anymore.
Yeah.
Man, people's grammar these days. I mean, mine is weak, but I feel strong when I see run-on sentences with no capital letters and no punctuation. Thanks, Martavius Bryant. You made me feel smarter than I really am.
I feel more smartly reading his stuff.
He didn't even use a capital I for I. I mean, it's one thing if you're texting someone.
Oh, yeah?
But, yeah, I would assume it's a little different when you're going on Twitter.
Always a good time with Martavius.
It is.
Last game of Week 8 that we're going to look at is a group of death match or group of disappointment match.
The group of disappointment.
Denver and Kansas City. Kansas just whooped Denver.
Yeah, Denver's quarterbacking again.
Basically, no O means no W.
Pretty much. Defense probably spent too much on it. I didn't really watch that much of the game. I thought I would. I know Fowler dropped a pass in the end zone while Denver is trying to get into it, but yeah, Simeon turned it over. That's the thing. Simeon's even turning it over now. When he was at least caretaking before, it's a little more manageable.
Yeah.
But yeah, he doesn't score enough points to get away with any turnovers.
Yeah, for him to be the successful game manager that he was earlier in the year, yeah, there's got to be basically 0 turnovers.
Yes.
So it looks like as far as KC goes, they're just going to run away with this division.
Oh, the Chefs are back. They're off and running.
All right. So that is our Week 8 review. We are going to look now at a few Week 9 games that we've chosen especially just for you.
Handpicked. You know what that reminds me of?
love.
Like when you used to hear like old school DJs back in the 70s and 80s.
Oh, yes.
I handcrafted this music set live in the Hollywood Hills. Like what? Were you out there chiseling music?
Actually, there are DJs on satellite radio right now.
No, that's what made me think of it. I've heard one recently. Handcrafting my set up in the Hollywood Hills. That's the other thing. It's like the big deal up in the Hollywood Hills. Like, I'm not up there with you. I don't care.
I've never been to Hollywood. I don't even know what the Hollywood Hills look like.
No, it looks like hills.
All I know is hills that kind of look kind of like, I don't know, kind of weird and weedy, and they got the big giant Hollywood sign on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like handcrafting music.
Handcrafting.
You don't
handcrafted experience.
Unless you're playing the actual like music.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how you're handcrafting it.
Well, despite those fools, we have handcrafted with love this NFL Week 9 preview. Straight
from a basement in Winnipeg.
And the first game we're going to look at is actually once again Buffalo and the New York Jets. We are liking these teams because we are actually talking about them quite a bit.
This might be a reasonable game, and I'm usually a Thursday night hater. I don't think it'll be a great game because it's Thursday night, but I think it'll be decent. I like Buffalo here, but I wouldn't underestimate the Jets. But yeah, I think this is a pretty big game for Buffalo, just to keep momentum going and winning on the road, and just to stay within reach of the Patriots, because they're right there with them right now.
Yep, they are. They've definitely been a huge surprise for me, and I think a surprise for most people, actually.
They're winning the turnover battle, and they're playing hard.
Yeah, they're playing hard. The offense is obviously underrated because they're doing, more than enough to win games, and they're basically supporting their defense.
I didn't think of this till last weekend because there was Steve Sarkisian is the offensive coordinator in Atlanta, replacing Shanahan. He's worked in the NFL a bit in college a lot and has had success. But the games last weekend I saw, or just heard about, this past year, Buffalo went with a new offensive coordinator, Rick Dennison, and he's a disciple of the Kubiak-Shanahan running passing game philosophy. That's his background. Not a name guy. I think it's his first coordinator job. He's in Buffalo. But I'm wondering if a guy from that running that actual offense, if he would have been a better selection in Atlanta, even though he's not as well known, because it actually runs that same offensive scheme for the most part.
Right.
Or even with the Jets, I can't remember who the name of their coordinator is there. I should have looked. Because I remember before the year looking at preview, I thought, this guy doesn't have a chance with what they have. Mm-hmm. But they look like a decent enough offense with what they have. And Baldwin and Curley are decent receivers, and Zafir Jenkins has been good at tight end, but really, and McCown's played above his head at quarterback, but it's really not an explosive group. Mm-hmm. Even though I like Powell and Forte, it's still not an explosive group. And it's a West Coast offense. And they seem to be overachieving there from what I'm seeing. So either one of those guys, even though they're not name guys, might have been a better pick than Atlanta for the offensive replacement for Shanahan than going for someone with a name.
Yeah, well, it's always we've seen that a number of times before where, the name guy isn't always the right answer. That there'll be some unknown guy, whatever, lying in the weeds, some unknown name that, comes out and rises above all the names.
I think those two guys, it might be too soon for them, but I think they both might be good future head coaching candidates in a couple of years.
Love it. So, big game there. Buffalo needs to keep winning to challenge for the lead, and the Jets, they need to win just to basically stay in it.
Yeah.
Tampa and New Orleans, another divisional matchup.
Jameis Winston just keeps throwing picks.
Yeah, kind of looking like the Jameis Winston of college old.
Yeah, I don't like the coaching staff. I just don't like I think that team grossly underachieves in Tampa. I don't like the coaching staff. Maybe with different coaching it'd help Winston, but I find it disturbing he makes the same mistakes he makes in college. It's one thing when a young player makes mistakes. That's normal. I always find it concerning in life, whether it's sports or anything else, when someone keeps making the same mistakes and not learning from them.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a product of coaching or if that's Jameis Winston for who he is. I'm starting to get a little concerned now.
So you think with Tampa Bay, because, going into it, we both thought Tampa Bay was going to be actually a good team and actually challenging for this division title.
Yeah.
I think we even had them winning the division.
We may have.
And most people had them at least being a contender, for sure, a playoff contender.
Yeah, they belong in the AFC West because they're just as disappointing as that group.
Yeah, so you figure in this case it's basically coaching. The entire coaching staff just needs to go clean house.
Yeah, end of the year, not right now, but I think coaching staff, and we got to see where Winston really is. I don't know if that's project of coaching or if that's going to be Jameis Winston just making mistakes for the rest of his career.
So we figure this should be a
coaching staff don't like Winston ?
So this should be a fairly comfortable win for New Orleans.
Hard to say because I don't know what you get from Tampa week after week. Is this in Tampa or New Orleans?
This game...
I know England's done for the year, so we won't be making that mistake again.
Yeah. No, this is in Saints territory.
Yeah, Tampa's actually had success in New Orleans over the years, so don't sleep on them.
All right.
But I just kind of like New Orleans here. They're just playing better than me.
All right. So next game we have are Rams and the Giants.
Oh, boy. The Rams coming off the bye. I like the way they're playing. I love their coach, and I hate McAdoo, the Giants coach.
Yeah.
So, oh, man, I nearly sneezed. So, anyways, McAdoo. So this week, Janoris Jenkins, the corner, is suspended. I have a theory about the mustache here.
All right.
And you know my hate on for this guy. I think he needs to go.
Yeah.
I thought he needed to go before he's even hired.
Yeah.
I even like him as an offensive coordinator. I've never met the man, and now I don't even like him personally. and I'm going with this. Jenkins, when he was with the Rams, I don't remember any disciplinary trouble. Maybe there's something I don't know of because I didn't follow the team closely.
Mm-hmm.
Never any trouble. He's suspended.
Yep.
Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie was previously suspended. I don't remember him having disciplinary trouble anywhere else he was before he got to New York. I've been hard on Beckham. I know he's out for the year, but I've been hard on his behavior. I'm thinking this is McAdoo. Jenkins is having trouble he's never had before. Cromartie's having trouble he had. And I sometimes wonder if Beckham's issues wouldn't be so big if they actually had a competent leader of men as a head coach.
I could see that because...
this guy's just a complete and utter joke.
I could see that because I know I was extremely concerned early in the season when the Giants were having their struggles, and McAdoo's response to why the Giants were losing and why the offense wasn't performing up to snuff was to go out on his post-game press conference and just blame Eli Manning for the entire loss.
I'm going to say something else about Eli, too. Sorry to cut you off.
Uh-huh.
Eli, one, you shouldn't be calling him out like that. No, I've never been... Eli's good. He's always run hot and cold, even in his good years. I'm not convinced he's done, though. I still think he'd be hot and cold at his best, but I'm not convinced he's done. It's that excuse of a coach and team around him right now. If they had a different team, I still think he'd have quite a few games, but I think we'd still see hot and cold Eli. But under McAdoo, I think we still see cold Eli, and that's why everyone thinks he's done. I don't think he's done yet. I think he looks done because he's playing in a bad situation for a horrible head coach.
Yeah.
And that situation where he called him out didn't help, like you said.
No, I thought it created just this environment of just throwing people under the bus and making excuses that it's someone else's fault for why we're losing. So it's like McAdoo, it's not my fault as a coach that we lost, it's Eli's fault. He's a terrible quarterback. I'm going to throw him under the bus and save my own skin. And that kind of attitude would then permeate throughout the locker room and becomes kind of a blame culture.
I would agree with that. It becomes a cancer. That's a strong word. Yeah, McAdoo needs to stop throwing people under a bus and throw himself under a subway train.
Well, there are plenty of those in New York. Next game we're going to be looking at...
I don't mean literally kill himself as much as I dislike the guy that's a figure of speech. So.
Next game we'll look at is Denver and Philadelphia. Big test for Philly, you think?
Yeah, interesting test for Philly. I expect them to win this game, though anything can happen this league. We've seen it. Here's what I'm looking for Philly is not so much the win, but they lost Jason Peters last week at left tackle, injured for the year, or a couple weeks ago, a week and a half ago. Last week they destroyed San Fran, but in a game like that, I don't see losing Peters, being at home against a team like that, being noticeable. Denver comes to town this week, and as much as Denver struggled, the one thing they do have is they have pass rushers and an excellent front seven. It's key this week to see now how that offensive line of Philly holds up without Peters against a quality front seven. So I think this is a good barometer to see where Philly will be for the rest of the year and which way they're going. I think this is a true litmus test. Not so much to win, but how the offensive line and the offense handles Denver's front seven.
So this will be almost a good pre-playoff, playoff-like test for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very much.
So, yeah. No, it makes sense. I mean, Denver, wasn't that long ago since they actually won the Super Bowl.
Still have Von Miller, still have Ray.
Yeah.
They still have, they can still get to you.
Yeah, so this is an all-star, all-pro defense. That
still have those corners.
Yeah, the defense that Philly will go through. So, yeah, good. Be a good barometer, good measuring stick for Philly. Lastly, we have a couple of games here, combo picks. We have Cincinnati-Jacksonville you want to talk about, and you see a connection between that game and Washington-Seattle.
Yeah, between the quarterbacks. I'll get to that connection right away. I want to see Jacksonville after this Darius trade. Everyone pans how bad Blake Bortles is. Really, can you be much worse than a guy who throws the ball out of bounds on fourth down?
Yeah.
Come on. I see Jacksonville. I know Jacksonville has come off wins before with disappointing losses, but they've had the bye this week, so they've had an extra week to correct that and talk about it. I think Jacksonville is going to blow the doors off Cincinnati. And I think Cincinnati, still a pretty talented team, even though they struggled. I'm with you, I'm not a Marvin Lewis fan, but I really think Jacksonville's just going to... Do they get another 10-sack performance this week?
Oh, yeah, why not?
That would be amazing.
Dalton has shown that his mind is somewhere other than in football. If you're so dumb and so inept as to throw the frickin' ball into the stands on a fourth down, it's what are you protecting the ball from? So
and Fournette should be back this week too, I think. Yeah.
After that play, I completely question Andy Dalton's mind. It doesn't work right. It's not made for football. And it wouldn't surprise me to see him just get crushed just because he doesn't realize he should be getting out of the pocket or scrambling or something.
Or throwing the ball away. Yeah, I think the Jags defense is going hunting this week.
Yeah.
The other game, Kirk Cousins and Washington and Seattle. I like Seattle there. Here's the comparison. I like Kirk Cousins. I think some people beat up on him too much, but I think some people overrate him. I know there's been rightful criticism of Bortles. Now, Cousins played last week, so-so against Dallas, weather game, blah, blah, blah. Probably not getting a lot of help. 2 weeks ago, it was the loss against Philadelphia. Bortles had an amazing game. Everyone, it was against Indy. Well, yeah, it was against Indy, but still, he had an amazing game. He did what he was supposed to do. I think it was 330 yards passing, if not more. So 2 weeks ago, the last time both these guys played in the same week, Bortles outplayed Cousins. I'm making a prediction, and partially because Cousins has to go to Seattle. So good luck. For the second consecutive week, not including the last week, which is Jacksonville's bye week, I'm calling this out now. For the second straight week,
don't say it,
Blake Bortles will outplay Kirk Cousins.
Oh,
I'm calling it right now.
I can't believe
Bortles outplays Cousins again.
That is insanity.
Straight up.
How did these words come out of your mouth?
Like this. Bortles outplays Kirk Cousins again. You like that? You like that?
You like that.
Oh, I like that. Blake Bortles outplays Kirk Cousins again.
That is bold. That is bold. That is the kind of prediction and call you only get here on the Body and Mind show. That kind of madness, not featured anywhere else.
No. And I'm serious.
So that is our preview for NFL Week 9. Next, we have the one, the only, the favored fight of the night.
Oh, here we go again.
Oh, yeah. So tonight, we are going all the way to the wilds of Cleveland, Ohio. Actually, just Ohio in general.
That's wild enough right there. Does it get any wilder than that? I mean, you know what? I think this is going to be passionate here.
Well, when the people who, obviously anyone following the NFL has heard that Cincinnati and Cleveland were trying to do a trade for Cincinnati's backup quarterback, A.J. McCarron. And the deal, they thought they had it, and then somehow, due to timing issue, Cleveland didn't get the...
Well, I'm ready to fight.
Oh yeah, let's fight. They didn't get their trade in time, so the trade was nullified. So we're going to we're going to give opinions on what we think really happened. So, Buddy, why do you think this trade broke down?
There are several, there's some theories out there. I have a theory. And, I think, because Cleveland's so used to flubbing on quarterbacks and getting cold feet, I think they got cold feet again. They had cold feet on Deshaun Watson. They had cold feet on Carson Wentz. They just have cold feet. And I think they saw, we get A.J. McCarron? And they got nervous again. Oh, should we do this? Should we not do this? And I think they just got cold feet again. They backed out. They got scared. They might have even got scared that they're gonna win games if they picked them up, and then fall off their first overall pick where they could go mess that up again. So
so they get rid of all their advanced statistics and their Moneyball, all their Moneyball analytics there, right?
Oh, it's working out great for them so far.
Interesting. So Cleveland...
cold feet again. We could get an effective quarterback. Whoa!
Leaving Cincinnati at the altar. Cold feet.
Yeah.
Oh! So I think that the reason that the deal fell through was because the Cleveland Browns were partying so hard. After hearing about the trade... Turns out that executives with the Cleveland Brownies, that once they got off the phone with Cincinnati and confirmed that the trade was a done deal, they started partying. They broke out the Cristal. Everybody's swimming in the sea of champagne, high-fiving each other. Yeah, we got our franchise quarterback at long last. Hooray! And while the madness and the partying was going on, and I'm sure Cleveland owner jumping out of a cake, no one thought to actually confirm with the NFL itself that this trade had happened. So Cleveland says that, oh no, they did confirm. They sent all the paperwork to Cincinnati, and that Cincinnati was supposed to send this confirmation in to the NFL, and Cincinnati's fault that they botched it up. Well, turns out that the NFL, that's not how it works. In the NFL, both teams have to independently confirm the trade. And so Cleveland's excuse, they are lying. I think that they literally just forgot. They partied so hard that they just completely forgot to actually do the paperwork, fax it in, email it in, call it in, text it in, however they want to tell the NFL. They just plain forgot. And now they're lying through their teeth to cover up yet another act of severe, historic, legendary incompetence.
Well, I could see that argument with that franchise in some ways, but here's my problem with that.
Problem?
Oh, here's my problem. That franchise would screw up a cup of coffee. So when you look at the party aspect, I don't even know if they could pull it off, because they would send someone out to go pick up the liquor, and that person would be so incompetent that they would walk out, and before they even got to their car, probably drop and smash every bottle on the sidewalk before they could even get back to the team facilities to have the party. But then the other team, I could actually maybe picture that as a bad team, but I don't think that team's competent enough to get the alcohol back to this facility.
Cleveland...
Either way, I think either one of us has a solid plan. This team's just horrible.
This team is so... just historically bad that nothing that comes out of Cleveland is a surprise anymore.
No.
So yeah, they could have gotten cold feet. They could have just been outright partying so hard they forgot. Now they're trying to lie and damage control out of it. Either way, Cleveland Browns, the fans, I pity the fans, but we are getting just endless entertainment from this franchise. Not for a good reason, but we're getting incredible entertainment out of them.
You know, there's been some great games this year, but there's been a lot of garbage games, and this comedy show might be more entertaining than some of the games we've seen this year.
All I know is I think I want to be at Cleveland's next draft party. Book it.
Oh man, that would be a good time.
That'll be a good time. If you can
That's when you know how good you have it in life, when you see how bad they have it. You appreciate everything a lot more. It's like, yeah, you know what? I have it pretty good.
Yeah. My food tastes better.
Yeah.
And that is our fight of the night. You can vote for who you think won this bout. Next, we will look at the latest and greatest in the World Series. As we speak, the Game 7 is ongoing, but we're going to review what's happened so far in the first 6 games, which have not been boring.
Oh, it's been fantastic. We've had everything. We've had low-scoring, dramatic games. We've had an absolute shootout. We've had unlikely heroes.
We had a game that ended sometime around when most people are just getting into work.
Yeah, we had one game that went, 2 hours and some odd minutes. That was really quick.
Yeah, that was like game 1.
And then we had the, 4 or 5 hours?
Over 5 hours.
Well, 5 hours, 40 some odd minutes, I think it was?
Yeah.
It's just been amazing.
Almost a 6-hour game. I think it ended like in past 2 in the morning on the East Coast.
Just absolutely. It's been everything in this series. It's been fantastic.
And we've had some unlikely heroes show up in this World Series.
Yeah, George Springer's been amazing. He struck out, 4 times in game 1? Mm-hmm. You wouldn't have thought he'd be an MVP candidate after that. And then he's been on fire.
That is bombing the ball all over the field.
Jock Peterson's been amazing for Dodgers. Alex Bregman's had a strong series for Houston. Not just with the bat, but defensively he's made some fantastic plays as well.
Yes, he has. And even Bellinger at first base there for the Dodgers.
Yes.
Actually playing some pretty phenomenal defense as well.
He is, yeah.
As another guy that you always think with a bat, but his glove at first is also an impressive thing. So actually some unlikely heroes from people that we wouldn't instantly associate.
An unlikely disappointment from people we consider heroes, because Kershaw, Keuchel, and Verlander between them in the series have combined for 1 win.
Mm-hmm. It's incredible. Like we've noted here that it's actually the foot soldiers that are doing the pitching here, because from all the starters, or the top 4 starters on both teams, we have a combined 2 wins. So we got 8 starters on 2 teams, and they have 2 wins between all of them.
And Verlander's pitched well, but he hasn't been dominant. He hasn't got decisions, or I don't know if he's been good, but he hasn't been as dominant as he's been. Kershaw's been dominant once and not so good once.
Yeah, well, Kershaw, he's got 1 win. So if we go Kershaw versus Keuchel, Kershaw's got 1 win, Keuchel's got none. Mm-hmm. Number 2, Hill versus Verlander, 0 for both. Mm-hmm. Number 3, I think we said Darvish, Darvish.
Man, he was a disaster in game 3.
Versus Morton, nothing there. And finally, number 4, we got Alex Wood versus McHugh. And McHugh's got the 1 win. So that's it. Darvish, you're mentioning our Iranian-Japanese friend there.
Yeah.
Darvish, having a miserable World Series.
And the amazing thing is, the Dodgers bullpen been so dominant, and Houston's gotten to them. It's 2 straight series where Houston's faced absolutely dominant bullpens. First the Yankees, and now the Dodgers. Bullpens no one could get to. And, the Astros don't sweat seeing these dominant relievers.
Yeah, they get to them.
Yeah.
Which I guess shouldn't have surprised us, because the Astros have been a home run hitting force for a few years now.
Yeah, but even home run hitting forces seem to get shut down by dominant relievers, and the Astros are having none of it.
Yeah. Which brings us to our point, are we having a home run derby in October now?
Seems like it. One significant thing that's been brought up about Houston earlier in the series, because I remember a few years ago when Houston started winning, and we talked about them, but not on the show. And my big thing with Houston is you can't win when you're striking out that much in the playoffs. And they've gone from that to now they're the team that strikes out the least in baseball. And since they got rid of a lot of those strikeouts, bang, here they are in the World Series.
Yeah, amazing. It's like it's almost similar to what we're talking about when we're talking about football and Simeon and the troubles he's had. It's like game manager, manage the turnovers, and more or less that's what Houston is doing here with strikeouts.
Keep the ball in play.
That's one thing that you can manage yourself is strikeouts. manage the strikeouts, do fewer strikeouts, get more balls in play, hang out in the pitch count a little longer, force walks, hits, whatever.
And sometimes even just move runners keeping the ball in play. You can't move them on the strikeout.
Exactly. Move runners. Exactly. Do sack flies, whatever. So it's interesting doing the little things, as they always say, managing the mistakes. And here they are in the World Series and looking strong doing it.
Little things become big things.
And the one thing that we didn't mention last week in our preview of the World Series final, because we actually had, looking at all of the categories, that we had basically the Dodgers as favorites for this. We had them on 5-3 categories. But I know the one category that we forgot to mention was Houston Strong.
Yes.
The benefit that they are getting, the unmeasurable benefit, I guess, from just that entire community, the things that they've gone through with all the flooding and the disaster that's happened in the city of Houston, and just having the rallying cry from all the citizens of that region, and actually a lot of the country even, just getting behind Houston for this thing.
It's good to see. Houston backing Houston, except for Joel Osteen. Oh!
Oh, that's right. Woo! Yeah, Osteen. You are a suck of the week every week.
We don't even need to discuss that.
Forever. You're on the suck Hall of Fame. Now and forever.
Cheesy smile and all, alone with a picture on the wall.
So we think Houston can do it. Can they do it? Can they have their first World Series?
Why not?
Why not? This is definitely...
it's come down to Game 7, so anything can happen.
Yeah, and definitely Game 7 going into it. I would say this is a pure flip of the coin. Because I don't know how you can realistically...
All hands are on deck for both teams tonight.
One team as having any advantage over the other.
Yeah, all hands are on deck, and it's been a truly unpredictable series.
Fun series. Go Houston.
Go Houston.
So that is our review of the World Series. Next, we have some more playoffs happening in Major League Soccer. So the MLS playoffs are underway, and we have 2 rounds. So we'll just do a recap of the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. Round 1 was actually a straight-up knockout tournament. So we had 4 games, basically the 4 wildcard matches, and that's it. Just one game, you win, you're in, you're out, you lose, you're out.
One fall fight to the finish.
One fall fight to the finish, exactly. Loser leave town.
I miss loser leave town.
Yeah. Well, so the games we had Vancouver at home to San Jose. Vancouver was favored in this one, and they torched San Jose 5-0. So Vancouver definitely taking full advantage of the home field and wiping out the Earthquakes. San Jose or Whitecaps were definitely favored to win this game, but the 5-0,
not by that much. Yeah,
that was an extra little bonus they gave the home fans. Yeah, people were not expecting that kind of a beatdown. But yeah, they move on. San Jose.
And I assume they're on the road for the rest of the way, right?
It depends who they...
Oh, yeah, it's aggregates.
Yeah, it's aggregates. Right? Yeah, so they're going to get 1 road, 1 home. Next game we had former champs, actually 2 former champs facing each other, Houston and Kansas City. Sporting Kansas City. And the
Houston's rolling in all sports right now.
They are, aren't they? Except football.
Yeah, they're half rolling, just
they're
offense.
Half rolling, yeah. They need to get the other half going. Come on, Houston, be strong.
Houston strong!
Yeah. So, yeah, and Houston was strong in this game as they had a hard-fought game against Sporting KC, and they beat them 1-0 at home in nothing but sweat-soaked, humidity-infested Houston. They basically have a natural home field advantage against every team due to the severe weather.
So they play outside. They're not in the dome.
Oh, no, there's no dome here.
Oh, man.
Scorching humidity.
Oh, that must be insane during the regular season.
Well, in the regular season...
I would think that has to be just outright unsafe in the regular season.
Well, what they do is what soccer has started doing in the last... within the last 5 to 10 years is throughout the world they've implemented a mandatory water break if games reach a certain temperature. So Houston, because of the incredible humidity that they get there,
they must do they mandate an extra water break on top of the mandatory water break?
They get every game has mandatory water break. So it's basically they play for 20 minutes, and the game stops for about 5 minutes, and players literally just stop, cool off, go to their benches, drink water for like a good 5-minute bout, and then they get back on the field again.
Because I can't even imagine what Houston's like in July and August between the heat and humidity.
Yeah, I felt East Coast humidity, and that had me crushing. And I was told that I basically experienced the jungles of Washington, D.C., and in the summertime in D.C., and everybody's ever been there, basically all I did was crawl from the airport into the taxi cab, thanked all Lord Jesus above for air conditioning in the cab, to which the cab driver told me that it was actually a cool day outside.
Wow. And I would think Houston's got to be on par with like southern Florida or something.
Yeah, I think Houston's humidity level is even worse than that.
That's
so
amazing.
I can't even imagine. I just know anytime I've been on that part of the world, I end up changing like shirts at least 3 to 4 times a day because I soak each one when I go out.
And you're not even in the hot part down south.
Exactly. So Houston, home field advantage, weather advantage. They got past KC. Chicago Fire, actually an impressive season this year, 3rd ranked overall in the Eastern Conference. And they were at home to the New York Red Bull, yet it was the Red Bull that went into Chicago and blasted them 4-0. Road team showing no respect to the home side.
Red Bull has wings.
And that's exactly what the Red Bulls did.
They were flying.
Even Chicago's German import Bastian Schweinsteiger could not put a stop to the Red Bull. So Red Bull's moving on. Chicago, see you next year. And our last game of round 1 was the expansion Atlanta United against Columbus Crew. And Atlanta, despite being expansion team, having an amazing season and very much favorites in this game, not just because they were home, but they have been the better team throughout the year against the Columbus Crew, who are currently having some off-the-field issues with their owner threatening to move the team. And yet, despite Columbus being in the madness that is Atlanta, with those amazing fans, over 70,000 fans packed the Mercedes-Benz Stadium to cheer on their United.
It's the first time I've heard Atlanta fans being passionate about anything.
And they are European soccer fans in America. Like, you would not, if you did not know this game was in Atlanta, Georgia, you would swear that this is happening in like Liverpool, England, or Madrid, Spain, or some other hotbed. The fans there are absolutely bonkers for this team. Fun to watch, great atmosphere, and definitely on the list to attend the Atlanta United MLS home game. But despite all the chanting and the environment, Columbus goes in there, gets a 0-0 tie, overtime solves nothing, and they win it on penalty kicks. Columbus Crew through to round 2. And that was round 1. So we had Vancouver, Houston, Red Bull, and Columbus going through. 2 home teams, 2 visiting teams. In round 2, we've done 1 game of each series so far. So the series, we have Portland Timbers against Houston Dynamo, Seattle against Vancouver. So there's a good almost crosstown rivalry. 2 cities are like 3 hours apart, I think. Toronto against New York Red Bull. Mm-hmm. And the other New York team, New York Football Club, New York City Football Club, who plays out of Yankee Stadium.
Interesting.
Actually. And they're taking on the Crew.
Where's the other New York team play out of?
They actually have their own soccer-specific stadium.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, the Red Bull, they have their own soccer stadium in... no, I can't remember if it's... I think it's in downtown New York still. It's actually a nice stadium, and it's called Red Bull Stadium. Go figure. So yeah, in the first game, basically Portland and Houston, the game was in Portland, and 0-0 tie, nothing decided there, so game 2 wide open. This game was in Houston, not Portland, Houston. So nothing decided. Seattle, Vancouver, again, another 0-0 tie.
And a battle of the Pacific Northwest. Seattle Sounder game sounds like another one for the bucket list.
It is. Seattle Sounders, that's where game 2 is going to be taking place. And that's coming up this weekend, so those fans will be insanity. It's actually Thursday night is leg 2 of this game. Sounders, yeah, they're another team that they have been, I think, up until this year with Atlanta, but they have been ranked as the loudest fans, the Seattle Sounders, in MLS since they came into the league. Every year, they're the loudest fans.
Seattle sports fans are just out there.
They are.
That's great.
They're phenomenal. They deserve success. The next game we have is Toronto going into Red Bull Stadium, and they beat the Red Bulls 2-1. So getting an away victory, a road victory, huge win for Toronto. So now they go back home to Toronto, and no surprise with this one either, because Toronto has basically been the best team in MLS for realistically the last 2 seasons. So they should have won it last year. It looks like they're on their way to the finals again. And the last game of round 2 is the other New York team, New York City against the upstart Columbus Crew. And wouldn't you know it, the Crew destroyed New York 4-1.
Wow.
So
a much more impressive showing than the one where they snuck out of Atlanta.
Yeah, exactly. In Atlanta, they did what they needed to do. To use your favorite term,
they parked the bus.
They parked the bus.
Oh, I love that.
In the Atlanta game, Columbus just parked the bus and just played pure counterattacking. But once back in the confines of home, who knows for how long, they demolished New York City 4-1. And it's not that New York City is a poor team either, because they were actually the favorites, second-ranked team in the Eastern Conference, and with some big stars playing for them, but didn't matter. Crew don't care. 4-1. Game going back to New York City, but Columbus right now, they're almost reminding me of Houston doing their World Series run. This seems almost like a weird team of destiny happening here with the Columbus Crew.
Yeah, interesting.
So that is your MLS playoff recap for the first 2 rounds. Next, we will actually be looking at CFL action. Week 19 just happened, and literally we're coming into the last week of the season. So review of what just happened and some playoff implications. So we had 4 games, as always.
Yes.
And we had Hamilton losing to Ottawa 41-36, so a shootout in Ottawa.
This is a typical game for Ottawa last year. Hasn't been quite that way this year.
No, it hasn't. But Ottawa lately, it looks like their offense is starting to get on track again. And that is what Ottawa's known for, is their offense. The defense is kind of like an afterthought for them.
They're kind of hanging out.
Yeah,
they're along for the ride.
Yeah,
get a stop late in the game.
They're basically there just to spell the offense for a few minutes. They can,
just to let them rest. Just so they can move up and down the field again.
Yeah, pretty much. So they can get on the oxygen tanks and prepare for the next drive. So Ottawa's starting to show some life, being the defending Grey Cup champions. And Hamilton as well, ever since getting rid of Kent Austin as coach, doing the coaching change, they've also been on a roll and starting to look like a legitimate team once again.
Best thing that may have happened is not hiring Art Briles.
Yes. So that would have been an unmitigated disaster.
Yes.
So for Hamilton, though, despite their heroics, with this loss, they've now officially been eliminated from the playoffs. But I guess at least it gives the team something to look forward to next year, that there are building blocks here.
Sure.
However, building blocks we do not see for our favorite punching bag in the CFL.
The Montreal Alouettes?
Montreal Alouettes went to Saskatchewan this week. and they suffered a 37-12 loss. Does this surprise us?
No.
No. It would have been surprised had it been the other way around.
I'm surprised if Montreal even keeps within point spreads, and theirs are always like falling. Like their spreads are usually double digits.
Yeah,
Their spreads you usually don't touch, but yeah, you feel safe about teams smoking Montreal right now.
oh, you do. This was a 25-point spread, and outside of U.S. college football, I don't see spreads that large.
Is that how much the spread was for? How much?
No. This spread would have.
Then I think it was like 12 or 13
Yeah,
or 14 or something.
Yeah, it would have been in that range.
Yeah,
So-
they easily destroyed.
So Saskatchewan, there's a team that's been rolling now. They're heading to the playoffs. The only question now is where will they finish? Basically, they could potentially finish in third place, or they could end up crossing over and facing a team from the Eastern Conference. So that's yet to be determined.
Whatever team has to face them, it's going to be dangerous with them playing as well as they are.
Yeah, Saskatchewan has been rolling. They're definitely the hottest team in the CFL right now, and they should make everyone nervous that's going to face them, because it looks like they are just improving every week, and on both sides of the ball. Next game we got BC was at Winnipeg, BC was at Winnipeg. And the Lions came in and upset the Bombers 36-27, and on the back of a couple of significant injuries for the Bombers. Starting quarterback.
This all couldn't have come at a worse time.
No, it could not. Nichols for Winnipeg, he got injured early in the game, and not even on a hit. He just went to do a throw and just tweaked his calf. Something went wrong there, and he couldn't stand up on it, so he is out of the game. Looks like he's going to be rested for this weekend's games. So the two quarterbacks that came in, Dominic Davis, Dan Lefevre, they did nothing. Lefevre actually caused more harm to his own teammates.
Yeah, I saw a bit of when Dominic Davis was in the game, and I missed Lefevre. By that point, that game was so depressing, I turned to college. It was a really good game I was watching there.
Well, it would have gone from depression to outright anger at watching Lefevre, because all he did was throw lame ducks all game long and suicide passes to all of his receivers, that had his receivers even been able to catch any of these horrifying passes, they would have been like lit up and more than likely injured.
Like the Bombers weren't suffering enough injuries in this game.
And unfortunately, the inevitable happened when Andrew Harris, star running back for the Bombers, made the mistake of catching one of Lefevre's passes. Another horrible pass was behind him. He had to wait for it, gave the BC defender all the time he needed to line up Harris and just crush him with a helmet-to-helmet hit. Took Harris out of the game, and he's also questionable for this weekend's game.
In Calgary, which
has been a death zone for the Blue Bombers for the last decade.
When they're healthy.
Yeah. So BC going in, doing the job, and on the back of a couple of significant injuries, pulling out the win. BC also, they're not going to the playoffs, simply playing out the string. And the last game of the week was Calgary and Edmonton, an all-Alberta battle.
Eskimos keep winning. Major winning streak, major losing streak, back to a major winning streak.
Back to a major winning streak, that's right. They won again, 29-20 in the Battle of Alberta. So for Calgary, this is like 3 losses in a row now, which is unusual for a team like this. So now Edmonton, suddenly they're on their major winning streak and couldn't have come at a better time. Just in time for the playoffs.
Well, the Bombers coming to Calgary might be the best thing for Calgary getting well right now. Mm-hmm. The Bombers just beat up as they are.
Yep. Yeah, and Edmonton just looking dangerous. Which, speaking of Edmonton, the last week of the season, week 20, we have Edmonton at Saskatchewan. So a battle here.
That should be an awesome game.
It's an amazing matchup because Edmonton with an Edmonton win and a Bomber loss and a Winnipeg loss, Edmonton finishes in second, Winnipeg finishes in third. Should Saskatchewan win, then they would finish third. So there's just all kinds of...
and Winnipeg would be second, or?
Winnipeg, if Saskatchewan wins, Winnipeg will be second no matter what.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, this is, yeah.
Yeah, so it could end up being Saskatchewan crossing over to play the Eastern team, second place Eastern team, or it could be Edmonton crossing over.
So what really hinges on that game? Because it's not really looking good for Winnipeg and Calgary. Never say never, but really it's not looking good for Winnipeg there.
No, and especially since Winnipeg already announced that starting quarterback Nichols is not going to be playing. They're going to rest him this week and let him rest up for the playoffs, which I think is a good idea.
I agree.
No sense going.
They're better with Nichols and the possibility of going on the road than Nichols with no Nichols even at home.
Yeah, exactly. So the Winnipeg-Calgary match, we think Calgary should win this easily at home against a beat-up Bomber team. So Calgary will just cement, well, they've already cemented their lock on first. This is just...
But they'll want this just to stem the momentum of losing those games in a row.
Yeah, exactly. Playoff tune-up for them.
So this is a rare time when the game means nothing to Calgary, but they might show up. In some cases, you might think it's a letdown.
Yeah.
With the losing streak right now, this will be no letdown.
Exactly. They need this just to get themselves going again, just to get that winning feeling going.
They lost that winning feeling.
Whoa, that winning feeling. Where there is no winning is
Montreal.
Here we are again.
Oh.
Our favorite
Cavis Reed. I need a dartboard with that guy on it.
I think you and 3 million Montreal citizens are probably wanting that same dartboard.
That guy's just pile driving that franchise in the ground. Like, I haven't seen anyone pile drive anything like that since Paul Orndorff pile drive Hulk Hogan in the 80s when he betrayed him. He is just pile driving that entire franchise.
He is, and it is an Orndorff-like jumping pile driver.
Oh, yeah. It's no halfway pile driver like you used to see back in the 70s when they just kind of sit down with it. Oh, no, he's jumping up in the air.
Yeah, this franchise is definitely a tire fire right now. There is nothing there. Darian Durant, who is the free agent quarterback they signed the offseason to kickstart their offense, he has been just incapable of getting anything offense going. And part of it may be that Durant is just past his prime. He's at the end of his career. But at the same time, he doesn't really have much weapons in Montreal either.
No.
So Montreal at Hamilton, nothing on the line here except for pride.
Mm-hmm.
But Hamilton, given their turnaround, since they're a horrifying 0-8 start, they should easily win this game out.
I would think so.
And the last game we have is Toronto at BC.
Toronto wins, they win the East.
Toronto wins, they win the East. Exactly. Ottawa has already finished all their games, so right now all Ottawa can do is just sit by the TV, watch Toronto, and hope that BC can perform another upset victory. So this should be a good game. Ricky Ray, quarterback for Toronto, healthy, offense moving. Toronto, high-scoring team. And again,
you're going into BC fits well. You're going indoors.
Yep.
Especially like this time of year in November.
Exactly. So it should be a track meet in there. So it should be an exciting game. And even BC, the Jarius Jennings, they have a quarterback capable of generating excellent offense, and he's a good running quarterback as well. So, and he has been phenomenal in the past. So maybe this is the game where it just let loose, all offense flies. First to 50 wins. Especially
BC, nothing to lose. And last week they showed even when they're out of it, they're still going to play hard.
Exactly. There's a Wally Buono coach team. And yeah, Wally has won Grey Cups. He's done everything in this league. So yeah, he's going to have this team as prepared as possibly can, especially since this looks like it might be Buono's last game as BC coach, because rumors are that he'll be stepping down at the end of the season and going back to just being team president and all that.
For now.
For now. So that is our review of the CFL this week. In preparation, Grey Cup playoffs just around the corner. And we get to the end of our show where we ended, as always, with our epic and suck of the week. Moment we thought was epic, and the moment we thought sucked this week. Buddy,
so
you're epic.
Yeah, my epic like actually comes from a moment that kind of sucked, but the best came out of it. So it was during Game 3 of the World Series when our fresh-faced boy from Houston there,
33-year-old
rookie Gary L. there, in celebrating, I believe it was a home run after Yu Darvish, on the bench he kind of mimicked Darvish with the Japanese eyes and that. Mm-hmm. It was a racial slur. So I thought Major League Baseball, Gary L., the Astros, and Dodgers all handled this well. So basically, Major League Baseball decided they're going to give him a 5-game suspension next year to start the year. And they said that they would rather do that than 1 game during the World Series because they didn't want to punish the whole Astros team. They didn't want to punish the 24 other players. The Astros, I thought, handled it well. I believe Gary L. apologized. Yu Darvish, apparently, I didn't hear exactly what he did, but he actually handled it with class and handled it well. Dave Roberts, the Dodgers manager, his mom is apparently Japanese. AJ Hinch, the Astros manager, aware of this, called him up and wanted to talk to him and just try and make things right. And Roberts accepted it. He knows AJ Hinch isn't that type of person, doesn't represent that. So both teams actually handled it well. I thought baseball handled it well with the suspension. There's punishment, but not doing it during the World Series. Darvish handled it well. Everyone handled it well. If you had a similar situation in the NFL, because after that, we haven't heard about it again in this series. I thought everyone handled it great. If this happened in the NFL, this would still be a tire fire going today, because that league doesn't have a clue how it's handling its stuff right now. But I thought the Dodgers, Astros, Darvish, Gurriel, baseball, everyone handled this ideally. So they took a negative and actually turned it into a positive at the end. I was impressed.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Your suck of the week.
Oh, my suck of the week. Kavis Reed and the Montreal Alouettes. But it goes deeper than that. When I was younger, back in the late 70s and early 80s, and started watching CFL football, the Montreal Alouettes were a power in the East. They were the best team in the East. They'd gone to, I think it was 3 straight Grey Cups and won 1. Lost 2 to the Edmonton Eskimos, who went on to win 5 in a row. Lost at least 1. I think they lost the first 2 that Edmonton won. They were the model power in the East. Then, just like now, because Montreal was a good team just a few years ago, and they've just done a straight-down dive. And it's been pretty quick. Well, same thing back then in history, straight-down dive. And in that straight-down dive, and within a few years, they went from a model team to financial trouble. Then they became the Montreal Concords. Barely stayed off not being in the league, but the franchise had to change and everything. That's how bad it was in Montreal. Then eventually the Concords folded, or they even become the Alouettes again, but it didn't work out. They folded. So it went from a model organization to ditching, and CFL's down 8 teams, and that was actually a rough time in CFL history. A few teams are having trouble. I know it's not really the league's place to step in with a team, but Kavis Reed's been a joke there. And the CFL, even if they have to intervene to get this organization straight, I know they're not talking like folding or anything right now, but we got to look at history sometimes, and they need to intervene to make sure this organization gets it straight, to make sure history does not repeat itself. Because I'm convinced if this keeps up for another couple of years, it might happen again in Montreal. Need to learn from the past to prevent the same thing in the future. So I think it's an epic suck the way this organization's gone, the job Kavis Reed has done, and even if the CFL has to intervene just to keep it from going this way, because it could happen again, something needs to be done about the situation in Montreal.
Good point. Because the whole point you're making, just the one phrase that keeps coming to my head: those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it.
Exactly.
Yep. So that is definitely a red flag to watch out for in the CFL with Montreal situation. Excellent. Good epic and suck.
Thank you very much.
My epic of the week is the New Jersey Devils. The Devils! From Seinfeld, Putty, the character, his favorite hockey team, who loved him so much he wore the face paint, put on the jersey, and ended up scaring an out-of-town Argentine priest into madness by the end of the episode.
Putty was the man.
That's how epic that the New Jersey Devils themselves are.
The Devils.
The Devils! The Devils! And this year...
That never grows old.
And this year, the Devils are finally showing